80% of the brain is used for movement. 80% of the brain. I like to say this: we are a library of microbiome. Fasting is more for resetting our gut. We need to be doing different kinds of movements, not the just same repeated actions. The best investment that you can do is yourself. Research says if you start working out, the benefit is same for a 60-year-old even compared with a 15-year-old.
Molecular biologist, aquatic educator, and a sustainable farmer leading the operations at the Varanashi organic farms. Our guest today on the Settle or Be Better podcast is Mr. Pat Varanashi, who's going to be talking to us about the role of movement in one's brain development and his learnings from microbiology. So, welcome, Mr. Pat, and over to you. Why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your personal health and wellness story?
Thank you, Sakshi. It's nice to be here, and it's nice to connect with all of you out there who are listening to this podcast. Bit about myself. So I was born in a farm, in an organic farm, which was about 200 years old, and I studied here. It's a village. Grew up here. My parents both were agriculture biologists, scientists. They did their PhD in macro and microbiology. So I was already into that from young age, but I had no idea about all this biohacking or fitness and all that. So that started much later. For my studies, I went to Australia for my masters, and during that time, as a part-time job, I took up a job as a swim coach. Swimming was my passion. I used to swim competitively back when I was in India, and it was all fun. And that's when I started meeting all these people who'd really spend a lot of their time of the day into the fitness, the wellness, and all that. So that's how I got connected. This was between 2006 to 2010, about almost 15 years ago. And then, as being a coach and also studying molecular biology, I could really connect the science with the world of high performance. And I continued being a coach, swimming coach, or a high performance swim coach after coming back to India, and trained athletes. Had the opportunity to train athletes to all the way up to the level of world championships, and represented India there as a coach as well. But that's one side of the story. The other side, I'm into regenerative farming. Regenerative farming is essentially much more than organic farming, as we can say. We do not use any chemical fertilizers. At the same time, we focus on multi-layered, multi-crop system with the great soil biology, and that way we can have more nutrients coming into our food. So that all connected together for me in terms of the quality of the food, and the fitness and the movement. And also, when I was in Australia, I got into action and adventure sports that really um, provoked my thoughts or my body, I think. So started doing one by one, trying out, and that's basically my story. World of high performance, movement, and nutrition, growing the right food and eating them.
Lovely. Lovely. That's not a story we get to hear very often, and it's something very rare, something really new that I've come across personally as well. I mean, honestly, when I did, first saw your profile and I was going to approach you, it was going to be more about, like swimming and about your coaching journey and, all things about that. But then when I started reading and, going through your posts, I saw something very interesting that you were talking about the role of movement in one's brain's development. So that was something that really caught my attention, and that's where we can begin our conversation. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and what is it that you would like to focus on when you talk about the role of movement in one's brain development?
I think this topic is fairly new. I mean, all the people are talking about it in places like universities, like such as MIT, or different places in the world. It's still fairly a new topic, and so whatever comes out in this conversation is more of an opinion, rather than and through experience, rather than going behind like hard facts and stuff. So I'll leave it up to the imagination of the listeners to take it up, do more research on the same thing. So basically, here it is, right? So the fundamentally, our body is connected to our brain, and brain gives all that movement to our body through something called the motor cortex. The motor cortex is right up here in the center, which connects to our spinal cord, and it tells our muscles to move, basically twitch, to contract, relax, or hold, which is concentric, eccentric, and isometric, but in a various combinations which allow us to move in the way that we want to move, whether it's talking or walking or doing swimming or a backflip or playing football or whatever that is. But if you see the parts of your brain, there is different parts. So we have the temporal lobe on the sides that does the memory bit, like remembering things, and then you have the frontal lobe, which does the cognitive abilities, your thinking thing, and also the fear in the prefrontal cortex. That job is done over there. But then there is the big cerebrum at the back, which does all this stuff, which is a massive chunk of your brain, which does all the work from the smell to your feel, the touch, hearing, the vision, and all these things. And then we have small part at the lower back of our brain, which is called the movement coordinator or movement cortex. And this particular section gathers information from our cerebrum, from our touch, feel, and all these, the vision and all that, and then computes that data in a way that the motor cortex can read. And then the motor cortex does that magic of movement, asking the muscles to move in the way that the brain is telling. So if you see, for movement, brain space used is a lot more than that of, you'd be a studies, or you'd be thinking, or you'd be remembering something. So we go to school and we generally say that, hey, our brain is our brain will get bigger, you get smarter by studying in a school, but actually if you move differently, that's when your brain is actually more active. 80% of the brain is used for movement, 80% of the brain. But again, the question is, hey, the smartest of us, such as Albert Einstein's, used only 10% or 15% of the brain, not more than that. We haven't experienced what Lucy has experienced in that movie. But yeah, the 80% of the brain is used for movement. So that's really curious. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
That's really lovely. I mean, in terms of movement and brain development, or, you'd say that mental health awareness and movement is something that has, become much more known to people because, when it comes to mental health and taking care of your mental health, people are now recognizing the, involvement of movement and exercising and, the hormones and the, moods that it regulates. It helps us with that. But this is something that it's really a new and, something very interesting for our listeners, definitely. And yeah, I mean, it's really a great way to understand this because there's this also one myth, like how you I don't know if you've heard about it or not, but it's not there now as much. But when bodybuilding as a sport or as an exercise was very new, and I think even some parts in India people still think of it like that you should not do it too much because most bodybuilders are, they people have this assumption about them that they don't really use their cognition as well as their bodies. So this is a completely opposing view, and these new studies are really like coming across and breaking this big myth that people have about movement and the its effects on the brain development. So that's really very insightful, and you can just tell us a little bit more about that.
True. But you know what? Like, if someone is a gym buff, people consider him as stupid, right? Or that's a perception, anyways. But then again, when you do movement, if you do different movements, that's when you become smarter. That's not if you go to a gym and if you do lifting the weight, start lifting the weight. Initially, it sparks more neurons in your brain. But if you keep doing the same thing every week and week and week and week and years, there's not much brain activity happening. You know why? Because there's something called muscle memory, right? So muscle memory is something, if you keep repeating an action movement, the brain kind of recognizes it as something that we do more often, and then puts it in muscle memory. Like, if I have to give an analogy for this, consider the random access memory, the RAM in your computer. So if you're opening a computer, first the information from hard disk goes to your RAM, and then it gets used from the RAM until that application is open. So same way our brain has something called muscle memory. So if you keep repeating an action, there is not much brain's activity happening. But if you keep learning new thing, okay, if you've done gone to the gym, does all types of lifting, then go to play football, and then if you know all the learned all the moves of football, football is becoming easy for you. Stop it and do something. I mean, I'm not saying stop it, but you can continue it, but do another thing. Do gymnastics, do swimming, and then surfing, and then skateboarding, and then slacklining, and then all these different movements. Keep these different movements in your life. Keep learning new things. When you learn new things, through movement, that's when you're activating your brain more often, and more the gray matter gets fired up in the brain. So more neurons are recruited. Neurogenesis happen faster than the death of neurons. Okay, so I don't know what's that called. So basically, so you end up having more neurons for activity, brain activity. So it's important that you do different movements, not the same movements. So if somebody says a gym buff is not that smart, we can't debate it. Okay, that might be true.
True.
No offense for anybody, but it's just an analogy that I'm giving, just a thought. We need to be doing different kinds of movements, not the just same repeated actions. So it's okay. No, it's actually better to be jack of all trades, master of none. I mean, you can be master of one or two, but try to be jack of all trades, which is fantastic for your brain development. So I hope you know
Absolutely.
that makes sense.
I mean, a lot of people, when they begin a new sort of, they start learning a new kind of movement or a sport, they usually tend to, completely put all their attention and effort in that one particular sport for years. And a lot of times, understanding this gets very difficult. That probably also, educating yourself and getting like learning these other form of movements might also complement this sport that you're already doing in some or the other strengths or skills that you have.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like the basic understanding of muscle memory, when you say this word again, it's a very fairly new term that people are starting to get aware of. But the basic understanding is like for example, let's take cycling, and let's say that I did learn cycling at an early age. I did it for, like, say, till I was 15. I didn't do it after that. But any time after that, if you get on a cycle, you always tend to still know how to do it, no matter how fearful you are of it, or so that is what the basic understanding of muscle memory is, that your muscles have that memory of that kind of a movement that you learned at a particular time. But also learning how we can expand this, because how people say that if you want to open up your mind to a better mindset or a better view of the world, you should learn more languages, because each language has certain phrases in them, that you might not be able to put it in any other language. And learning these gives you a reference in your brain, in your map of the brain, where you can open up your worldview, basically. So that's also a great way to understand that that's how also muscle memory works, and how we can approach movement with this multi movement approach, that it'll be good to go about it.
absolutely. It's not just the movement which um, improves your neurogenesis or neuroplasticity. It's also it could be sensory rich experiences. So that's why action and adventure sports out in the nature is the best for your brains. Sensory rich experiences sparks more brain activity, or learning a new language, or learning music, or playing music, and all these things, or even cooking. Anything that you do new things, which
Right.
in learning there are three stages. There is the verbal stage, and then there's the cognitive stage, and then there is the autonomous stage, right? So verbal is more of your teacher is telling you what to do, or you're watching a YouTube video and you're trying to learn that. So that's the verbal stage. And then the cognitive or the motor stage is your perception of it, and then translation of it, right? So there's the information, and then the perception of that movement, and then translation is the ability of your body to do that. And all these stages have the highest brain activity going. And then when it comes to autonomous stage, which is somebody says do this and you can just perform, somebody says dance, you can dance, somebody says play music, or say swim 200-meter butterfly, that you can just do it. So that's the autonomous stage. Of course, the performance comes from how fit you're feeling and how you've trained yourself. That factor is always there, but that's beyond your brain capacity. Um, yeah, so there are different stages of learning, and you should be learning all the time to improve your personality and also your brain, your gray matter in your brain. So I think that makes good sense. Yeah.
Lovely. That was really great. And coming to the topic of neurogenesis and neuroplasticity, we spoke about this on a call earlier. Can you just shed some light on these two aspects and how are they different from each other?
So the idea is that brain is big and we're not using all of it. Okay, so we're using very small percentage of it. And neural plasticity is basically the idea of using one part of the brain for multifunctions. Not sure if I'm putting it right, but so basically what happened, I'll give you an example. One of the visitors we had at the farm was this one distinguished gentleman. He's a professor of epidemiology in from University of Southern Carolina, and he's also um, the head of cancer research in state of Southern Carolina. And then he had an experience, life experience, where he had stroke and part of his body was paralyzed. But then being a scientist himself, so he wanted to battle it out, and then he started playing ping pong with the table tennis with the left side. Okay, as he played these random movements, it was new for him, and then he played, where he had to do a lot of work between his cerebrum, movement cortex to motor cortex to give that coordination for the hand. So it was firing in the brain, and the brain was active. And while it was active, like you go into the gym and building more muscles, your brain gym was on, and you were building. He was building more neurons, right? So neurons are the brain cells. So that is neurogenesis. And as a result, he could use that newly sparked brain space for the entire paralyzed body, which is a massive amount of brain, mind you. Um, so he generated new brain cells using his left side only, playing ping pong or table tennis, and he used that newly created brain cells for the right side of his body and gained the connection back up so much that he traveled to India again, and he was roaming freely in our farm, and he was traveling alone. He's in his 70s, and that's neuroplasticity. So it is just not necessarily we can use it. I mean, we could use it for healing from a disease or from a stroke or some illness, but also as in normal human beings, right? If we can do these movement sports, different movement sports, and increase our brain space, maybe we can use that brain for our business, or researching something, or developing a better relationship with people, or developing a better connection with nature, and expanding our senses. There's so much you can do with this extra brain space that we can get, where you can put it back into movement and do extreme things. We see these things in Instagram these days. People are doing incredible things, right? They're doing, like, we're gonna go like, what is happening in the world? So this is what's happening. So they're using um, neurogenesis, and then they're doing the neuroplasticity to improve their movement. Okay, we can also do the other things. So humans as a collective species and civilization, we are on this brink where we're either gonna make this place very difficult for us to survive, or suddenly start thinking right and make this planet beautiful place to live, because of our capacity, and the technology, the right technology, the sustainable technology, and eco-friendly technology. So it's limitless. This topic is just incredible. I think we can keep talking
Absolutely.
about it so much.
Absolutely. And movement does have a major impact on our lives if we know how to use it rightly. I mean, I really have forgotten the name of this scientist, and I'll put it up when on the video whenever I can
Yeah.
recall it. But there's this story that when I went for my dance movement therapy training course, that's where we learned this. And, about mirror neurons. And I think this scientist also is a major name in the study of mirror neurons. And he was paralyzed completely on bed rest. And there was this little child in his family, I don't know, his nephew or someone, and who used to always come and play besides him, just be in his space as this person is on bed rest completely, because he can't move, he's paralyzed, and he can just move his eyes, looking at the fan, the ceiling, nothing else. But looking at this little kid play and just mirroring his movements slightly with his fingers, that's how he started doing this. And that's how powerful our mirror neurons are when we use it along with movement consciously. And that's a great story also. I'll put in more detail in the description below when I recall it. But that's also a great understanding of what major role movement can play in our lives when we know how to use it rightly. So that was a great topic to talk about. Um, and So coming to brain gym, like you were talking about it, what would be some specific exercises or the kinds of physical activities that you'd say we can go for to begin with in order to work this brain gym of us?
Um, I mean, there are a lot of different things that we can do, right? So, some of the stuff that I like is so juggling could be fantastic. You can start doing it. You can probably watch a YouTube video and get these three balls and start juggling it. That would be fantastic. We used to play as kids. I grew up in a village, and one of the village games is called the stone and the palm game. So we take like five pebbles, and then we hold it in a hand and we pop it up and catch it on the other side, and then you got to catch, and then we continue like that, or jumping with single legs and running backwards, going across. So basically doing things that you're generally not used to do. uh, Modern methods, I really like slacklining. It's just simple. The whole slackline costs anywhere between 5 to 10,000 rupees, and it pretty much has a lifelong um, life. Like if you take care of it, it lasts really long. And you just all you need is two poles, strong poles, or two trees in between. You can put it up, and then you can kind of try to stand on it, balance it, try to exist on the line in that space and time, and move along with the line. So your brain is constantly engaging, right? It's observing the movement, it's observing the wind, the feeling of the body, and then kind of giving to and fro instructions, and then you're balancing it. So I think slackline's great. Balance boards are fantastic. um, any random ball games are fantastic. And then it goes on. Then the sensory rich experience comes. Like this could be your journey. Like we go to office and we do our work and we take care of a career. I think people should spend at least 1 or 2 hours a day in taking this particular journey in their life, and it's beautiful, it's progressive. We do have to take care of safety, like not attempt something and beyond our capability. So it improves. So every progression, if you take care of it properly, and if there is a step by step progression, it's enjoyable. The process is enjoyable, and every day you're going to be better, you're going to be a lot better. So I think maybe at the end of the podcast I can take you guys down, and we have a slack line set up right in front of the house. So I
Oh,
will
lovely.
maybe show that, and also the balance board maybe. So the idea is to make it accessible for you. Like for example, the balance board can be even taken to your office, okay, or just get a
Yeah.
Swiss ball. Okay, throw your chair, like office chair, put a Swiss ball instead. So just trying to balance in it while working. So you're playing these things in your thing. So it's change of work, and it's great for your body and the mind, and it's a kind of rest as well. Okay, so there's so many things you can do, or have a like a pull-up bar, or like a TRX bar in your office. Every now and then walk out, and then do some of suspension training. Connecting muscles is also a great way to connect you.
Right.
um Yoga, acro yoga, there is so much. Poi hoops. These are all like small props that you can carry anywhere, and work on your like brain gym. and also have fun. Like having fun is the most important thing. When you are having fun, the neurogenesis is so much more. So make sure you don't stress on it, but enjoy the process is what's important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm sure we can definitely make it a point to try out new adventure spots and things like that on our vacations, because that's a great way to plan your holiday, and that you really literally are going out there, and there are so many things available which might not be available where you are located currently near your house. So that's also something that you can do. And I think, to sum it up, correct me if I'm wrong, just for audience to take back with them. So movements that help with balancing and cross body connection movement, and non-dominant hand or side of your body usage, because that's also something I've learned about. Correct me if I'm wrong anywhere, but like writing with your left hand, or
With your
just
left hand.
throwing a ball and catching it with a left hand.
Yeah.
That is also another great way to go about it. Also, I want to share one activity. Again, people do go research. I'm not an expert, but this is what I learned at one of the workshops that I went for. So what you do is basically put a thumb in front of your eyes, like at the center, and you start moving it in an infinity sign. So like a sleeping eight, infinity sign, small, really small first, and let your eyes completely follow your thumb. So like go from smaller movements to make it larger and larger, and do this for a
Fascinating.
few minutes. Do this for a few minutes, like before probably a meeting, or probably something that uh, a creative project that you want to work on. And what happens is our eyes are actually like the cursors or the mouse of our brain, and this is the great way to access information from like different parts of our brain, and that's where a really good creative flow can also begin. And of course, all of these are the real physical movements that you can definitely go for. So that was very insightful. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm also going to make sure that I do have these little props with me, and plan my day with them. So that was a great insight. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Likewise with the thumb thing, it's incredible. But yeah, definitely try slackline, balance board and stuff. So yeah.
Yes. And coming to physical literacy, I've seen you talk about this message particularly quite a lot. And I think that you also do these talks in schools and educational systems, that how should we include physical literacy, and what is the state in India currently about it, and what can we do to make it better?
I think we have a long way to go. The first thing is accepting it. Accepting is a little difficult, and especially dealing with parents and people of our generation who didn't have um, this movement as much. We were all told that don't be in sports, be in studies more. I went to schools which literally told me off because I got selected for state level or national level events. So I'm like, why are you doing this? They kept telling me. So I think the approach to sports needs to change, which is happening now that the government is really focusing on sports and we won those Olympic medals. But it shouldn't be just with the aim of Olympic medals, but to basically improve the entire population of the country. And movement sports, if introduced in school as a curriculum, and we can be very smart about it. Indians are very smart. We're smart people, and if we get in this nice curriculum, which from primary education itself, every year, every day, they have different movement in their PT period. Somebody comes up with that, I think Indian kids will be super smart, and we can go places, I think. But it's required right now. It's quite poor. The coordination, what we see, especially our generation went through the toughest bit, I think. But the younger generations, we see some great movement athletes coming up in the younger generations. I hope it is changing. And but with the population that we have, we can do incredible things. We can win so many Olympic medals. We can produce so many champions, both in the in business, in research, in sports, and in just general life. If we embrace movement in our education.
Absolutely. And it's really, really the need of the hour, because I do remember as a kid in school, I used to hate the PE period, and I was not into sports at all, because I remember PE period, or the annual PE test that used to be, graded for our each year's exam. It used to just have like running from one point to the other, long jump, and I think like one more other thing. Okay, like just
Pull-ups
these
was
three
there.
things.
High
Yeah,
jump,
yeah, sorry. Pull ups, and no,
push-ups,
not pull-ups for me. There were
shot put.
push-ups
No,
and
yeah.
crunches. I don't
Yeah.
know why crunches for some reason, but okay. Like these were the only limited things,
Yeah.
and you just had to do it in front of everyone and like go one by one, and it just for many people, for many girls also, it creates this sort of dislike
Out.
for movement or sports. I mean, there's so much that can be done to make movement a part of our lives from a childhood, and to create that love for movement, because I'm sure that now there are many more athletes emerging, and they are looking at it from a career perspective, or something that they really want to ace, and they want to tap into the peak performances. But also apart from that, like there's a big need in the Indian culture, in Indian families also, to cultivate this fitness and health culture in our families itself, because most of the time, whenever, at least in many typical families, you'd see someone, our elders, like our parents or our grandparents, working out or going on a walk only when they're diagnosed with diabetes, or when the doctor tells them that now you have to go for a walk because you have to start these medications. And it's not there in many families, that you'd see them really building this love for movement, going working out together, or going on these adventure sports together, these sort of things. So I think that is also something that we should be building on, and it's another message through this podcast that we would love to spread, because there are so many of these new people, these parents who are doing a really great job in introducing these things in their kids' lives from a very young age, because changing that perspective after you've grown and 25 years of doing nothing is really difficult. But when you have this build this love for movement from a very young age, it becomes really a good thing to have as an adult.
I have a very interesting story to share, and this is all the elderly people out there. I started my dad's movement journey about a year ago. So he was going through lot of issues, health issues, and he could barely walk. He would stumble, he would fall, his balance was off. And then slowly started working on him, especially started throwing balls at him right into his hand. He would catch, and then started throwing it to the side, to up high, like, not like everyday slow, small progression. So over 6 months from catching like this, he started catching there, and there. And then fortunately, we have a trampoline at home, and asked him to start walking on the trampoline, and then backwards, and then sideways, and his and then hanging, right, hanging. He couldn't hang for 3 seconds, and now he hangs for 200 counts. Well, his counts are really fast. He counts like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that fast, but still 200 counts is at least, I would say, 60 seconds. He can hang for 60 seconds now. He's 68 years old, and every day, and he swims half a kilometer now every day. And see, for this is what I like when I studied this one course called Science of Exercise. It said, research says, if you start working out, the benefits of that workout, or that lifestyle of working out, you get it, it's pretty much the same, the benefit is same for a 60-year-old even compared with a 15-year-old, which is, we wouldn't think like that, right? We'd think like a 15-year-old would get so much more out of it than a 65-year-old, but apparently not. So for older guys, it's actually fantastic. You can go now, free up your mind without any tension, without no pressure. You know yourself more. Get out there, start learning a new sport, and reap the benefits straight after. Like, it's something. Yeah, the best investment that you can do is yourself, like your body, yourself, your mind, body, mind. And if you can reap the benefits within matter of months, why not invest on yourself instead of putting the money in the bank? I mean, it's important. I'm not saying that don't do that, but invest on yourself is, I think, and the results have proven, and it's there, and it's for sure you're gonna get results. It's not a maybe, it's not a gamble, it is for sure. benefits of it.
True.
Yeah, and microbiome. I'm keen to talk about that as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And this was really a great story. I hope to see some video of you and your father training and doing, whatever that you are doing currently together on Instagram. So that's going to inspire a lot of people out there to start doing these things in their lives. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And to microbiology, uh, like, why don't you begin by telling us that how is it that you were applying those learnings in your training and in, understanding the foods or peak performance methods for yourself and athletes.
So basically, I studied microbiology in my bachelor's and more of my molecular biology in my master's. So I studied more of that. So how molecular biology helped me understand fitness and our body is basically molecules are the fabric of our cells, right? So if you want to go deep down, it's proteins or what we call as the 21 different types of amino acids. Like I don't know if any of your Marvel comics fan, there is a superhero called Ant-Man, right? So Ant-Man, his ability is that he can go shrink, shrink, shrink. He can go to atomic level and probably like even smaller than that. But as he's going down in size, he could probably see an amino acid. Amino acid actually has a structure, right? It is like a piece. Again, giving an analogy, compare a human body to that of a house. Okay, so to build a house, you need a lot of different raw materials. You need bricks, you need cement, you need paint, you need metal, you need tiles, and so many different things. And all of them come together when an architect plans a house and gives it to the mason and carpenters and the contractors to put all these things together. Our body is exactly the same. So, the fundamental of our body is DNA, right? Any living forms, DNA. So, DNA has this information to create life. So basically, what this DNA is the architect, and this DNA cuts off itself. It replicates always, and another thing it does is cuts off one of its part and sends off its out as an RNA. So RNA is basically like the carpenters. DNA is the architect, RNA is the carpenter and the mason and the contractor. Okay, so they come hang out in your cell, and every single cell is touched by our blood, right? The blood moving around. And where is this blood going from? I mean, of course, the heart is pumping it, but it is first going to your through your intestine, and intestine has the food which has already been digested. So if you ingest food which has protein and carbohydrates and fats, that get digested in our stomach and gets into your intestine, where the amino acids, the proteins are picked up, and so is carbohydrates. But what we're interested in is these amino acids, which goes to each cell, where the carpenter, the RNA, is waiting for this material, pulls it in and folds it in and forms another new cell, right? And these cells multiply to form tissues, and these tissues form organs, and organs, along with a lot of microbiology, our body happens. So that's the fabric. Now, coming into microbiology aspect, if the blood needs to get these amino acids, these the bricks and cement and whatever the construction material required to build a cell, it needs to digest the food properly. Okay, when we eat, say, we're consuming chenna, and that chana doesn't have it has amino acids and fat and carbohydrates, but it needs to be separated out, right? So that's why we chew first in our mouth. It mixes up with our saliva and then it goes down, and in the stomach there is lots of microbiology, 3 trillion, or I don't know the number, some trillions. It is the microbiology, the amount of bacteria in our body, right? All these bacteria have only one thing: they eat. They keep eating, 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 and as they're
Right.
eating, they're degrading, right? They're breaking things apart. As they break these things apart to bioavailable carbohydrates or proteins or fats and all these molecules, which is picked up by the blood through intestine. So now it's important to have this microbiology in your stomachs. If this microbiology is lacking, the food is not digesting. So no matter how much you eat, it is not getting into your body. Like the locals, there is a local saying in Canada saying, "ಅವನು ಎಷ್ಟು ತಿಂದ್ರು ಅವ್ನ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆಗೆ ಸೇರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ." Means like the food is not getting into his body. That is because of lack of microbiology. So microbiology is important in many ways. It's required for immune system. It's required for the way, for your mood. It does all that thing, but my interest specifically is for rebuilding. As we can rebuild our body, we can maintain youth, right, for a longer time. We can stay strong, we can have healthier cells. Healthier cells leads to healthier tissues and healthier organs and healthier entire body. So that's my interest on microbiome, and did bunch of experiments, not plugging in or anything, but I used this patch by Ultra Human. They had this continuous glucose
The
monitor.
cyber.
When I was using it, I did get a lot of flank by the people who are watching it. They're like, "What are you doing? It's just stupid," and all that. But I think it's very, very clever. Um, how they've done it, because those AGI monitors were there in the market for a long time, but they were only used by patients. I mean, why should
Hmm.
only patients use it? Like those who are having diabetic patients were using it. Why not a normal person use it and identify what food he can digest or she can digest better, and then choose those foods? It's a very smart thing to do, right? Like if you can identify how your body digests what kind of food, and that is totally dependent upon your microbiology. Your microbiology is different to that of mine, right? We're all
Right.
I like to say this: we are a library of microbiome, right? So ever since our birth, ever since we came out with a bunch of microbiology from our mother, and then we enter this world, and each of us have a very unique developing stages. Like I go to different places, you've gone to different places, you've eaten different things, I've touched different things. Or like we get close with different people, and our microbiology gets shared, and ultimately what happens is today I am a collection of microbiome, which because of my life experience, what I've had, and that reacts differently to the body. So to at least my body may digest it very differently to that of you. Okay, so this particular patch, the ultra human, tells you the way carbohydrate is digested, but I'm curious to see how amino acids are digested. I don't know if there is any device to check that, but hopefully in
Well,
the future if it's there. And then these are the paths for human evolution. Like if we know what exactly you need to eat, the consumption can be reduced, the efficiency could be like quadrupled, and so many benefits. I think eventually humanity will get there for survival, but it would have been nicer if it's not for survival but for for
to
progression.
thrive.
Yeah, that would be nice, like a organic progression.
Absolutely. And there's something really interesting you talked about on our call earlier, that about how our microbiology continues contributes to the behavior of each individual, and resetting it with the 12-day approach that you have. So if you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Resetting the microbiome, there's a lot of challenges. I think the biggest problem, um, sorry guys, I have to say it, it's alcohol. Right, so if you okay, so talking about
Yeah.
resetting the microbiome of your body, um, microbiology is very sensitive to pH. Okay, so that's very important. How we eat up too much cooked food, so most of the time our body is in acidic mode, which is not that great. So it's important to balance it out by drinking every now and then. So lemon juice,
Yeah.
I was talking about it, or other food which increases the alkalinity in your body, in your stomach, in your gut. Okay, reduces the acidity, and then not consuming toxic food such as carbonated water, the soft drinks and stuff, which destroys your gut microbiome, and then eating too much antibiotics, so that like constantly taking pills for everything, and maybe a bit controversial, too much of hygiene. Okay, too much of hygiene may not be a good thing. So time to time, going for a hike where there is pure water coming from the streams, collecting that water and drinking it. Going to organic farms, or regenerative farms where they do not use chemical fertilizers, so it's safe to pick up the fallen fruit and eating it without washing. Again, these are all in my opinion and my experience. So these would be great to improve your microbiome. So there are a lot of products out there, which is a bit of touch and go, in my opinion, because these are all the microbiome, like I mean, bacteria they have collected, industrially, right? So this may be fit for you.
And I think you also spoke about fasting in order to go through this process, right?
Yeah, I mean, fasting is more for resetting our gut, especially eating a lot of food which has high fiber, and then fasting. And I love this. This is not the best packaging, but it's uh, cold pressed coconut oil. So I consume this. I swear by this. I consume this early in the morning, about 1 spoon. I keep it in my mouth for a while, mix it up, and then swallow it. And once I do that, I don't get hungry for till 11:30, sometime even like till lunchtime. No food, but I can work full power. My energy is the maximum during that time when I'm fully starving. And then I had a coconut oil. Um, the MCT in it, they breaks apart to give 132 ATPs instead of just two ATPs from your anaerobic,
Right.
or 32 from your aerobic sequence. So it's a lot of energy for a longer time, and with the very less effort for your stomach, which usually consumes 30 to 40% of your energy just for digestion. So you have a lot of energy. So do that, and then eat at 11:30 or 12, and then don't eat till 5 or 6, and keep your evening meals light. So basically one meal, and plus like one meal plus a salad in the evening. Most of the days, I wouldn't say all the days, and then you'll go through. I mean, this is my experience again, opinion, and then you go through the times when you feel really hungry, and use that for cheat meals. And your cheat meals should be like your good food, the good solid food, not fried. Do not consume uh, heated oil, like any kind of heated oil. Fried, though, absolutely not. You're destroying yourself. uh, like when you're buying, you have your favorite phone or favorite car, you're buying stuff for your car, you are very careful where it comes from. You do a lot of research on internet for these parts. Or even the shirt that we're wearing, we're really particular about the brands and stuff. But why are we not particular about the food that we eat, which makes us, every 35 days, cells are reproducing. We can completely change every single component our body in as less as 6 months. So 6 months is a very short time in a long life. So I think we should really consider where our food comes from. Opt for regenerative farm food, permaculture food, not even organic anymore. It used to be organic, used to be the hype before, but then organic became commercial. Commercial went on for monoculture crops, and they have depleted nutrition. So India is so low, ranked so low on nutrition index, not because we don't have food, but because the quality of soil has gone down. There's a lot of great
Mhm.
people out there talking about advocating for soil health, save the soil movement and all that. I think it's fantastic. I think the entire nation could should back it up, and because food is the most important thing for any country, any civilization to grow. And we have a solid one. We should think about it more often, and improve reset our gut microbiome by doing things like this. Eat better, eat from a good source, and eat less also. You don't have to eat 4 times a day, 3 times a day. One is enough,
Yes,
maybe two.
there's more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And can you tell us a little bit about your, if I'm saying it right, the workshops that you conduct at the Varanashi farms? And, I think I saw something on your profile and the farm's profile that there are these retreats or workshops that you conduct. And what is it that, actually that you people come and do there? And what is the learning from that?
We have different programs happening at the farm. So I happen to travel a lot. During about 15 years ago, while I was studying, I was visiting different farms and working as volunteers there. There was a concept called woofing, willing worker on an organic farm. So I did that during my travels, and ever since I wanted to do the same thing in our farm. So we started off as volunteering programs where people can come and do farm work, all the hard work in the farm, but we give them food and accommodation, and also a bit of learnings in terms of movement, in terms of regenerative farming, teaching, and all that. And then we do high performance camps. We hosted about seven high performance swimmers from Team India. Those swimmers who were swimming for the Navy, the police, the Indian teams, and all these representing these things. So they came over and they trained for the ultimate championships. So we do high performance camps, training camps, fitness camps, and then we have tree to bar workshops, tree to bar chocolate making workshops. We teach you how to make chocolates from scratch from cacao bean, the pure chocolate, not the chocolate that we buy in the shops, which has hardly any cacao in it. Then we do regenerative farming design workshops. We have summer camps for kids. So we produce most of our food in the farm. So we grow paddy, we grow banana, we grow nutmeg, spices, vegetables, about 25 different kinds of vegetables we grow. There's coconut, we have a dairy. There is all kind of spices from turmeric to ginger to chilies to green pepper, black pepper, all of this that we grow. And the food is mostly farm to table at the farm. About 90-95% of the food in the table comes from the farm. So it's you grow your food, you eat your food, and you live happily interacting with the nature. Also live cleverly. This is the theme of the farm. So we go with the tagline, nurturing champions to build sustainable communities. That's the idea of the farm, and it's been happening for the last 10 years. We've hosted more than 1,000 people in the farm.
Oh
A
wow.
lot more in the day trips. We host about 1,000 students every year from different institutions. So it's lovely being here, interacting with a lot of these people, and sharing the knowledge, learning more, and progressing through time.
Lovely. That was really lovely. And if you can just share the location for our audience, for our listeners, so that they can also think about it.
So we are right in the border between the God's own country of Kerala and the majestic Tulunad of Karnataka. So Tulunad is basically the coastal Karnataka, south coastal Karnataka, and we have a very diverse community here. And it's located in the foothills of Western Ghats, and the diverse culture and civilization's been here for thousands of years. So our place is called Varanashi Farms. You can Google it. Do not get confused to the Banaras Varanasi. That's far, far away from us. It's on the other side of India. We are in the state of Karnataka, in the south coastal district of Dakshina Kannada, and in there is a small village called Kepu. In that Kepu village, there is Adyanatka is our town. It's a very small village, and Varanashi Farms is what you have to look for on Google. Varanashi Farms, not Varanashi Farms. So if you're looking up us up on Instagram, it's Varanashi Organic Farms, and you can look me up as Coach Partha on Instagram as well. So if you want to come for volunteering, you can send your letter of interest and resume to varanashi.workaway@gmail.com, or just get into our website, which is www.varanashi.com. And again, Shivaraanashi. And then we'll get back to you, and you can visit as a guest as well, or volunteer, or come for one of these workshops. We have a nice tree house, which is 55 feet above the ground. People can stay in that. And we have mud cottages built
Oh wow.
with the minimalistic idea, low carbon footprint idea. So it's a farm stay. It's not a resort. It's a farm stay, but a lot of activities to do.
Lovely. I am personally really intrigued at visiting this place, and definitely looking forward to it. Hopefully this year, if you're not already all pre-booked with so many
Yeah,
people.
no, please come. Yeah, I think August to
Lovely.
December is the best time to come. August to December is when everything is full of water, and there are fireflies and birds everywhere and different animals, and it's quite nice at that time to visit.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. As we conclude our podcast, is there any last message or thoughts that you'd like to leave us with for our audience?
I think like the world is evolving. I think it's very important to keep an open mind. Not necessarily follow everything that has been laid out to us by the older health industry or whatever. So there is new things as it's our responsibility as the citizens of India to open up our world for the world of fitness, food, and the way the food is produced. All this is very important. India is a very strong country. With There is no other country like India, and we can go places. We just need to be very smart about it. And also we have a huge history, which is almost we missed last 200 years. We kind of missed out from that history. There's a lot to learn. The Vedic civilization is a sustainable civilization which has been for 5,000 years. As there's a lot to learn from that. We can get the best from that and the best from modern science. We can fuse it together and explore um, a higher standard of living, I guess. Everybody. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we are really lucky to have leaders like you know, leading the way by example and showing us the really amazing ways in which we can really dedicate our lives and, you know, experience these things in this lifetime. So thank you so much for being that inspiration and for being on our podcast today. It was a lovely conversation. I'm sure that a lot of people are intrigued by this conversation and please go and research more about anything that you might have a doubt about and reach out to Mr. Path and uh, look at what other projects he's working on. So thank you so much, Mr. Path, again, once again, for being here on a podcast today.
Thank you, Sakshi. It was lovely to talking to you all. And yeah, thank you.
You know the drill. Subscribe to the Settle or Be Better podcast, like, share, and comment on our videos, and oh, hit the bell icon because you don't want to miss the mind boggling health discussions we're about to bring for you. Why settle when you can be better?